Hello everyone and welcome to another NGA 2D video. My name is Critchley and I'm joined today with Jorge Barros from Graphene-X to discuss something that we don't see too often in the graphene world. It's the launch of a graphene product on Kickstarter. Now Graphene-X have recently launched some graphene enhanced Omega pants, and at the moment it's already funded. There's around about 1,000 backers and the campaign's still ongoing and until the 6th of November. So thank you for joining me, Jorge. Now, I use Kickstarter a lot myself, so I'm familiar with the platform, and it's not often we see something like this on Kickstarter. It's normally a lot of different, like from the graphene space. So there's not many companies who produce graphene products and put them on a Kickstarter. I know you have in the past, and this is your second one. But from your side, like, how did Graphene-X come about, and why are you choosing to go through Kickstarter compared to just general retail of your products?
Hi, Liam. Excited to be here. Thank you for the invitation, and happy to give a little bit of our insights in this experience. So, starting by your question, I think it was about 3 years ago when everything started. We identified a lack for real all-round clothing. We noticed that there is a big bunch of brands that produce very specific products for that time that you make that really amazing hike, or that rock climbing, or that particular occasion where you're doing something special outside of your regular life. But there was not a brand actually focusing on your 99% of the time, which you are commuting, you are having a beer with friends, you are doing a casual business meeting. I mean, your life. And we couldn't just find clothing that actually was able to perform and perform great in a variety of situations. And it just sounds weird, you know. It's weird that we are able to spend a lot of money for that 1% of the times that we are hiking Fuji mountain, but we don't have like a really good high performance clothing for the 99% of our time. So we start doing that research, and basically we always clashed with materiality. We noticed that you have amazing materials for a couple of things, let's say nylon for some things, wool for others, polyester for others, but they were also having like big downsides on other situations, right? So I know, for example, wool on rain. You don't want to have wool under rain, right? And in this process of trying to discover the right blend of materials, we crossed roads with graphene, with a research and an interview, I think, that was made to the guys in UK that discovered it. And we start reading about this material and its marble-like properties. And we just wonder, you know, what could happen if actually we empower and we enhance like the materials that we normally see with graphene. And this is where this all started, you know. And the first thing that really caught our attention was the tensile strength of graphene, you know, how strong graphene is. And I had just had a very bad experience with a quite expensive jacket. I was doing a normal hike. You know, I'm a normal hiker. I'm not the guy that do Mount Everest, but I'm the guy that makes a regular hike, you know, a couple of days. And I have spent like a lot of money in this jacket, and with a very simple branch, you know, I just make a hole on it. And I said that, I mean, it's the first time I use it. I spent $600 in a jacket and I have a hole for a branch. So all these, you know, like different situations ended up in showing us this opportunity of doing something better for those occasions, and where graphene, you know, appeared as this amazing material that could actually be a game changer. And that's where basically the idea, the vision started. And when we start actually finding the right players to make this happen, and we just were incredibly lucky to find a producer, which is one of the probably top 10%, top 10 of the producers of high performance clothing in China, that was convinced by our vision and convinced in experimenting what could happen if we integrate graphene with these materials and see the results. And after 2 years of that is when we launched our first product on Kickstarter, which was the Alpha Series jacket. And getting to the second part of your question on why Kickstarter, it was because it just made all the sense in the world. We didn't come from this industry, so we didn't have the network or the resources to launch a jacket. I mean, we had the product, we have a great product, but if we didn't reach to the right eyes, then it's worth nothing, right? So Kickstarter gave us that. You know, Kickstarter is a place for early adopters. It's a place where people believe in visions, where people believe in ideas, and which is where they're able actually to invest 6 or 7 months in advance just to be the first ones on getting that product. So if you look at it in this way, Kickstarter backers are basically venture capitalists, but in a dreamy way. They don't take share of your company. They are basically buying your product in advance because they believe in your vision. So again, it made all the sense in the world. You know, we have people that could eventually, because we didn't know if it was something that would make sense to other people, it gave us the opportunity to test the market to see if there was actually people that shared our idea without actually producing this amount of jackets before actually having people interested in them. And that's why basically we chose Kickstarter.
Yeah, with this kind of product, it does kind of make sense to go that route because you're targeting what you'd call, say, like the general population rather than the actual industry itself, or like the high tech industries, or, you know, like the manufacturing industries. Because you're targeting the general consumer with a consumer product, it does make sense to take a product like this more into a Kickstarter regime rather than, you know, through industry. So it does make sense from that perspective, and the use of graphene in consumer products is something we're seeing, you know, more and more. So you started with the jacket, and now you're moving on to the pants. So why have you now decided to integrate some pants with graphene?
Well, for a series of factors. The first reason of why we are actually launching pants and launching the Omega pants in Kickstarter right now is because we pride ourselves of being a backer-centric brand, a backer-centric company. And after the successful launch of our first campaign, we asked our backers, okay, guys, what would you like to see next? And 80% of these guys told us pants. So actually in our idea, we were thinking to produce other products first, but I mean, when you have an 80% asking for truly all-round pants that would be durable and high performing, you say, you know what? The market is asking for that. So that's where we embarked on the challenge of actually developing pants, which is a completely different story than developing a jacket. And again, the properties of graphene, like especially because depending on the product, you may say which property of graphene basically shines the most. In the Omega pants is durability. It's durability where graphene actually shines and where it makes all the difference. How do you measure durability of clothing? There's, I mean, you can do house experiments and do really crazy ideas. We've done that. But the most scientific way to actually do that is through a test that's called the Martindale abrasion and peeling resistance test, which basically consists on putting a piece of textile and a machine that rubs constantly over that textile. Just to make the point, military grade clothing is required to withstand 20,000 rubs to be considered like it has the required quality to go into the military. we like to experiment and we like to really push things. So when we asked that test to be performed on our pants, we didn't set for 20,000 reps. We didn't set for 50,000 reps. We didn't set for 100,000 reps. We went for 150,000 reps. You may say, but what's the point on that? I mean, you have to live like 3 lives to get to that amount of reps. Well, just because we really believed on what we have. And the reason of why we were able to completely success on this test is because the shell face of these pants is nylon integrated with graphene, and it made a huge difference in the performance of these tests.
Yeah, that's quite a difference, and obviously that the durability is a defining feature. Is obviously it's because of the graphene there, and do you think there's anything else beyond graphene that you could get the same level of performance, or is this as going to be as almost as high as it could get?
Well, you have several like amazing materials today. You have Dyneema, you have Cordura, you have other different materials that are making an entrance to several industries. But we are convinced that graphene just hits it out of the park. When you see companies like Huawei and Samsung racing to get the first graphene integrated battery, you see, there's something here, and that's not even getting into the screens business. You just imagine. I mean, graphene is strong, it's flexible, it's transparent. Try to put that on a cell phone screen. Try to see if the market would dig on that. So we are convinced that the world actually is going to be a different place in 10, 20 more years, where graphene is going to play a big role on how we understand things today. When you normally read the news and say, graphene, the unfulfilled promise of graphene, you can read a lot of that. And it's incredible to see, because graphene was actually discovered in 2004 and started to get like wide recognition after the Nobel Prize in 2010. And as in any new technology, in any new material, it gets time for things to happen. It gets research, it gets companies to invest in more precise methods for extracting, for using that material in whatever applications you can imagine. And I believe that we are just starting to see that. So I'm completely a believer that the next years to come are going to be pretty exciting for graphene.
Yeah, it is something that's been spoke about a lot. It's a tipping point of where it could propel forward in the next 10, 20 years, you say. And it's interesting that you mentioned screens. I know it's completely different. It's completely irrelevant to this conversation, but that is an area where there has been a lot of interest, like the batteries as well. So it's not just a textile thing. It is a wide consumer products potential there for the next decade or two. And while we're on about like consumer products and we're talking about Kickstarter as well, there's obviously some products that won't be suitable. Like there's talks about like graphene concrete and aerospace parts and automotive parts. Those are obviously not something that's going to be suitable for Kickstarter. But more on the consumer product side, as we've mentioned here, like the consumer goods, for the general public. Do you think that Kickstarter could become a good platform for companies who are looking to release like consumer products which have been enhanced or integrated with graphene? And is that something that could help graphene to take off in this sector and help the actual industry itself find new customer bases? Absolutely.
One of the big critiques that we have seen in the past years for graphene is that basically people is always saying, hey, get it out of the lab, right? It's amazing. Yeah, we can see the tensile strength. We can see the thermal conductive properties. We can see even the antibacterial or the bacteriostatic properties. Amazing. Get it out of the lab. Well, that's exactly what we did. And we did it in the most simple way you can imagine. Clothing. I mean, everybody dresses, so clothing, it's something that in a way or other everybody is somehow familiar with, right? So when you think on Kickstarter, first of all, you need to understand that you have a base of users of 28 million users on Kickstarter, of normal people that likes to get dressed, in our case, that likes to play games, that likes to find new technologies for headphones, that comes from, I don't know, 200 countries. Just to make the point, in our first campaign for the Alpha Series jacket, we got backers from 70 countries. 70 countries. I mean, you just can't imagine how global this is, right? So if you are looking for a place to show your idea, to show your vision, actually, and to widespread, you know, an innovation, Kickstarter is a perfect place. You know, you have normal people that live normal lives that somehow are defined as early adopters and that are looking forward to see new things, to see innovations. So if you just take that idea of the audience that Kickstarter reached to, and you put graphene into that same equation with all the potential that we see in graphene, you just make the math and it's a perfect match.
Yeah, it sounds well. Yeah, it does sound like it could be a way to for more consumer products to get. Like I said, it in the realms of like tech and textiles and consumer goods, it could well be a good platform for the future. Obviously, there's some sectors which are not going to be suitable, but for others, it could be that breakthrough of to reach, as you said, the average person who, you know, the general public. So if we just move back on to and we can wrap it up and talk about what you've done. So you've, as you said, you've released the Alpha graphene jacket, and now you're onto the Omega trousers. Obviously, this campaign has been funded. This is going well. The other one's gone well. It's all going well at the moment with the graphene clothing. So what's next for you after this campaign? Is there going to be more graphene products in the pipeline? And are they going to go through Kickstarter as well?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. During this year, I mean, in this point, we can say that the company has been actually doing business for 1 year. We launched our company in Kickstarter last year with the Alpha Series jacket. But throughout the year, we actually launched our online store, which is www.graphene-x.com. And we introduced other products. We introduced socks, which are integrated with graphene. We introduced t-shirts integrated with graphene. And we even introduce a middle layer jacket, which blends graphene with recycled polyester to insulate that jacket. It's just out of this world. And now we launched the Omega pants on Kickstarter. And we already are working on a series of other products. Some of them are going to be launched directly on our store. And our idea, and this eventually, of course, can change with time, is to hopefully be able to launch at least one product every year in Kickstarter. Why? Because Kickstarter has to do with how the company was founded. It's there where everything was made possible, right? And where we expand, you know, the vision of the company to a bunch of people that maybe hadn't heard of us before. So if we had to choose, because you never know, you never know when another pandemic can come at this moment of the time. But if we had to choose, we would love to be in Kickstarter every year with a blazing innovation where graphene plays a role.
I think it's definitely a good one. I obviously mentioned like smaller things on the stub. It's obviously a good platform for the ones which are going to be of a higher manufacturing cost, because obviously it gets that upfront without with the obviously less risk and more chance of getting the product out. So yeah, it would be good to see that happening every year, and look forward to seeing if that does happen and does manifest. So that, I think, just wraps about everything up for this interview. For those of interest who have been watching it, The Kickstarter is currently live at the time of recording. It's live until the 6th of November if you want to check it out. And I'd like to thank Jorge for joining me today. And until next time, goodbye.
Thank you, Liam. Nice to be here. Bye.
Thank you.